Old is the latest movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm very excited to give you guys my review for this movie. If you've seen it, be sure to leave a comment of what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get into this review. In this movie, a vacationing family discovers that the secluded beach where they've been relaxing for a few hours is somehow causing them to age rapidly and reducing their entire lives into a single day. Now, this is a movie that seems to have really divided people. It came out last year and I just saw it this week for the first time, but I knew people were pretty divided on it, and I feel like lately with a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies, that's how the audience has been. For me, there's been some movies that I've really enjoyed of his, like Unbreakable, Split, The Sixth Sense. I enjoy Glass a fair bit, actually. And the other movies I'm not as big on, I don't hate like a lot of people do. Like, I think one of his worst, that people consider to be one of his worst anyway, is After Earth. I don't think it's a particularly good movie, but I don't hate it like a lot of people do. So wasn't quite sure to expect on this one. And for me, I think it was okay. I don't love it. I don't hate this one. I just thought it was okay, and there was enough in it that I enjoyed it for the most part, but I got issues with it as well. For me, the main idea of what's going on at this beach where people are aging rapidly and, you know, reducing their lifespans to a day, that was a cool premise, and I thought a lot of that did work fairly well, although I got issues within it still. But what was going on and most of the performances going on helped to make it fairly entertaining, and there was definitely some like suspensefulness in it that made that part of the movie fairly enjoyable for me. And I do have issues which I'll get into, but I think that idea was, it felt pretty unique. I've not seen something like that before, so that was really cool. And I think the middle portion of this movie, so like from the start of that, of figuring out what's going on when they're at the beach to maybe the start of the final act, was the strongest for me, and it kept me engaged and fairly entertained. However, a lot of stuff started to feel repetitive towards the final act with what was going on the beach, because they'd have these situations going on where, you know, people are getting older and they're facing things like going blind, going deaf, or losing their memory, things people face as they get older. So that was cool, but sort of how people were acting and events that were taking place felt like they kept happening over and over. Like this one person has a knife on them, and there's times when he's like mentally there and he seems pretty smart, but then there's other times where either from what the beach has been affecting him with, or just some mental state he's in, he's sort of not quite all there mentally, and he will attack people. Stuff like that would just keep happening, and towards the end it just started to feel repetitive because we had similar situations just happening over and over. Sometimes they'd be, in the end, like more severe, more suspenseful, but it was still felt like sort of more of the same, and it just started to feel repetitive. So that part of it is when it started to more lose it for me. But before it started feeling repetitive, I was enjoying it. The reveal at the end, I think, is something that has also divided the fans on this movie. For me, I was like, it's okay. I neither liked it nor hated it. I was just like, yeah, okay, I guess that's what they're going with. I was just sort of indifferent to it, which is not really what you want to a big reveal to something. But yeah, it is what it is. And like I said, the performances for the most part were really good. But I think what was holding them down was the script, because some of the dialogue is just like, it just felt off. It was kind of bizarre at times for me. And then the other problem I had was, while performances were usually good, I found there at times just some of the line deliveries were very flat, especially at the start of the movie. Just the way people were like talking and delivering their lines, it sounded more like they were reading their lines for the first time, and like they're just going around reading their lines but not putting much expression in it. Like they weren't quite sure how the director was wanting them to act in that situation, so they're just reading the line off a paper. That's sort of what it sounded like to me, and it just felt off. It just pulled me out of the movie all the time. More when they got on the beach, I found the performances a bit better with how they're delivering the lines. There were still moments, but overall better. But more before that, when they're at this resort, there were moments that was like, what? It just felt so odd. Like there's this one scene where this couple are having breakfast, and one of them starts having seizures on the ground, and the guy, the way he was delivering his lines was so flat, and like at first it's like he was trying to be calm in the situation, but after that it's like it was like that thing I mentioned where it's like he's just reading off his lines but not sure how the director wants him to really deliver the lines, that sort of thing. So that pulled me out of the movie. But I will say the middle portion of this movie really held this movie up for me to where I mostly enjoyed it. I was fairly entertained, although I got those big issues mainly at the start and end of the movie. But just the concept of these people being on the beach, aging fast, that was, I thought, a really cool idea, and it was played well for the most part, although there's times when it's like you can tell there's been a jump in time by a few hours, and these people are aging really fast, so years have gone by for them and they don't look like they've really aged that much. So that was a bit of an issue I had too. And the final one was, there were some kids in this movie when they started. They're about 6, so they were aging throughout this, becoming, you know, teenagers and adults eventually. And there were parts when like the teenagers around, I guess 15 or so, maybe young adults, they were acting like they had the mind of a 6-year-old, which is what I would expect. I thought that was good, and a very good performance there, especially from Alex Wolff. I thought he did a really good job in this. So that was good, but then there were other times when it felt like they were a bit more mature mentally than a 6-year-old, and like and it was odd, like their bodies were obviously aging, and maybe parts of their minds could age as well, but there are parts of it that just felt like, I feel like you would need to also just live and experience things to be like this, if that makes sense. I might be way off on this, nobody else thinks this, but there are just moments where it's like they no longer seem to have the mind of a 6-year-old, and they seem to have more of a mind of where they are, like where they appear to be physically. So that just bothered me a bit. It wasn't a huge issue for me, but it was sort of like, okay, I just gotta go with it, that sort of thing. But the middle act I thought was good. It had some suspense, nice sort of horror idea. There was definitely one moment towards the end in the cave where it did get kind of scary, which I thought was really good. So yeah, overall I thought this was an okay movie. I was fairly entertained, mainly in the middle portion, not so much in the start or the final act. It was just sort of, okay, that sort of thing. So yeah, I can see why people are split on this one. I'm just sort of think it's okay. I think it's fine. So for me, I would give Old a 60%. So guys, if you have seen it, be sure to let me know what you thought about it. As well, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And be sure to stay tuned for some more reviews coming real soon. And until my next video, take care everybody.